Hello. Hey guys. Give you guys a second to jump on. Wow, I can tell I did not sleep last night, but that's okay. Not for any bad reason. You know when you've got so many thoughts going on and it's just better to just get up sometimes. And you know, I am like a huge proponent of getting to sleep, but sometimes it is better to get up and write it all out and like brain dump while it's fresh and while you're feeling creative. But this is what happens when you have one or two of those nights. It's all good. Hey, I want to jump on as you guys are jumping on. If you are watching this live, please comment below live. If you watch it on a replay, please comment replay. I wanted to share with you something that I've shared many times in the past, to be honest, but Sunday this came up for me 3 times in 3 different directions. Do you ever have that message where it just, whatever you want to call it, God, spirit, something, and you hear it, the same thing from 3 different perspectives that seem to be random? Right? The more dialed in and the more tuned in you become and you choose to recognize those things, the more you will see of them when they're actually happening. I believe that they're probably happening for you. It's just a matter of agreeing that it's possible and leaning in when it does happen. So for me, this was Sunday, and it was the idea of who you surround yourself. Pick your travel partners. That was almost the exact words. Picking your travel partners is critical. And that was almost the exact words from 3 very different sources, 2 messages that I had heard from 2 different pastors on that morning or throughout the day of the morning, and then a girlfriend that posted something, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the 3rd time I've heard that today. And so whenever you hear something like that, I have learned to ask, okay, what am I supposed to learn here? What am I supposed to be hearing? It makes you kind of stand up and take notice. And sometimes I feel like for me, it's also something that I'm supposed to share forward or remind, and that's what I'm going to do today. So today I'm going to talk about that concept of picking your traveling partners. But I'm also going to talk about more specifically in terms of how to recognize what might be healthy, might be unhealthy, what to look for in creating healthy travel partners, right? Or people that you surround yourself with, and then how to find them, right? If you're not sure, right? First, let me remind you that if you are somebody that is trying something new for what you have based on what you've experienced before. So whether it's something like you're trying to get stronger in your confidence, or you're trying to get stronger in your financials, or you're trying to get stronger in your faith walk, or you're trying to get healthy and fit and you've struggled for a really long time. You may have, as you do the work, or you just realize that you struggle with kind of a negative perception, or you don't feel very worthy. Like a really common word these days is whether or not we are enough. That's become kind of a catchphrase, but it is valid. It is true. If you struggle with those things and you start doing the work to overcome it, and you start doing the work to get on top of it or become the next best version of yourself, a lot of times as you choose to get healthy, then there may be people in your life that you start to realize are no longer healthy for you, or the relationship isn't healthy, but you couldn't see it from where you sat before because you yourself were struggling with so many things. So as you do the work to become the next strongest or the next best version of yourself, it is important for you to look at who you have chosen to surround yourself with, and who is in your immediate surroundings or immediate circle, and what kind of interactions do they have or influence do they have in your life. And when you do that, hi Vera, when you do that, you may need to decide, it sounds a little bit harsh, but I've talked about this many times. There's 3 categories. There are people that may be in your immediate circle that are so unhealthy that you really need to do the hard work and delete them altogether, right? Especially if you've grown up in an environment where it wasn't healthy interactions, or you were like talked down to, or you found yourself in a relationship, maybe with a boyfriend or I mean, I'm not going to get into marriages and all that kind of stuff, but you could be in the midst of a very unhealthy relationship. Something changed for you to where you started to want more, do more, be better. And then you started to realize that the other person is very negative towards you, talks down to you, or something along those lines. That is a very obvious, they need to, like, you have one life to live. And in order for you to live your best life, like I always say, each and every person is created on purpose with a greater purpose. And in order to live your best life, you have to make some really hard decisions. And sometimes that will include deciding who you will no longer allow in your life. One of the books that I just recently started reading is, actually I can't say the word. It has a bad word, and Vera will remind me, but one of the things he talks about is what you are unwilling to do. And that applies here too. Sometimes you need to decide that you are unwilling to tolerate how you're being treated by a certain person, or you're unwilling to tolerate just how they are choosing to do life in this specific season of their life, right? And so you need to look at who do you need to just cut out altogether. If it's a very negative, unhealthy relationship, you'll start to recognize that. I will tell you that I don't think at this point in time I've realized that it doesn't need to be a big conversation. It really doesn't even necessarily, hey Trevor, hey Mark, if you guys are watching live, you can type in live or type in replay if you're watching it later. Would love to hear from you. It doesn't necessarily need to be a conversation with them. If it is someone that you feel like you really want to continue to do life with, and you feel like they're open to growth and those types of things, then there is a time and place for that. However, there are some extreme situations where it just requires like enough is enough, or you've already tried all the things and it's time to no longer have them in your life. The second, so that would be the first category. There's going to be people that you probably need to delete altogether. The second category would be setting appropriate, healthy boundaries. And this could be the case if it's someone that you just don't feel like you really want to still have some presence. Maybe it's a family member or just somebody that you've grown up with, and you're not ready to just, or you think it's a little bit harsh to like let go altogether. It's setting appropriate boundaries, and it's communicating those boundaries when necessary, as necessary. Whether it's in a conversation, each one of these could be a separate video, so I'll just leave it at that and go into more detail in some things that I'll do in the future. But setting boundaries so that you can maintain the right space and the right interactions. So some simple things would be like, if someone is going down a rabbit hole of negativity, you can say, I really am not going to have this conversation anymore. And if they continue to go on, you just simply stop responding. If you've ever had somebody in your life that is incredibly negative, or they just have the need to be right or to condemn or whatever the case may be, and they just can't let go of a point, and they keep going and keep going and keep going. And there's like, at some point you just stop responding, and or it's maybe it's something so incredibly urgent to them, like they need to deal with this right now, but it's not that urgent. Like, you don't need to be sucked into their sense of urgency with whatever they're not happy about or complaining about or what have you. Make sense? Again, that's for really a whole nother video. There's a whole type of person that is like that. Hey, Karen. But it is appropriate, and it is the best thing that you can do for yourself, and those that are meant to travel with you, those that are meant to be part of your greater purpose, and or you're meant to help through your greater purpose, need you to be disciplined about who you allow in your immediate circle. Because when you are healthy, that is when you're able to give your best, right? We can't give our best unless we are at our best and have our best to give, and part of that is experiencing the best too. And if you've got negative voices in your life, or that are condemning or critical, or nothing's ever good enough, those types of people really don't have a place if you're in a place where you're growing and evolving. The third one is a little bit deceiving. So there's people that you will definitely need to just audit and delete when you're starting to get healthy and doing the work. There are people that you just set appropriate boundaries around, understand that there's going to be pushback from that. They're not going to like it. They're going to tell you how wrong you are. They're going to tell you there's something wrong with you, all the things. Just you continue to do the work, be kind. And that's a work in progress too. And then the third is the type of person that is a good person, but they're not on the same growth path as you. what happens when, like, they could be, and that's almost harder to identify because you're like, well, they're a good person and they're doing all these things. But if they aren't on the same growth path as you, then as you continue to grow and they are okay with where they are and stay, that's okay. There's a time and place, and maybe that's what they're meant to do or what have you. But you'll have less and less in common. You'll have less and less. And it is true that one of the core principles about who you surround yourself with is that it's contagious either way. So in a situation where someone is a good person, but they're not continually growing or on the same path or the same direction, and they may not want to be, which is totally fine. But it is who you surround yourself with in your immediate circle is contagious. So you need to be mindful of people that are not on the same growth path. And if you are in that environment and you're spending time with them or you're connecting with them or whatever the case may be, are you still pushing yourself forward, right? And that is something that you need to be mindful of and decide how much time you're going to invest in that friendship, right? So what do you want to look for with healthy people, right? Like, what do you want to look for in terms of becoming the next best version of yourself? How do you pick travel partners? Well, first and foremost, I think that there's 3 categories here too. There is further than you, they're further along in the path than you. There is they're walking beside you, and there is they're walking behind you. And I think all 3 are super important. I think then people that are walking further ahead of you are people like coaches and mentors. Hi, Marianne. If you guys are watching it live, type in live in the comments, or if you watch it on replay, then watch it or type in replay later. Let me know. If you are meant to, so the people that are walking further along with you, they're coaches, they're mentors, they've already carved the path, and you want to get very specific. And this may not be the same group of people for every aspect of life, right? You've got people that maybe support you in your spirit-driven life. You've got people that might support you in your business life, right? Or your impact life. You've got people that might support you on relationship growth, right? And so you may have different people. It'd be very rare to find, I think it is too much of an expectation to find one person. Hey, Helen. Hi, Jennifer. Hi, Eve. It would be really hard to find one person, and I think it's too much to expect to find one person to meet all the needs for all the aspects of life. So I do believe that you need to find people to travel with you. You've got your core group of people that cover like most areas, right? But you're always going to need kind of mini groups in different aspects of life. And hi, Marianne. So the people that are a little bit ahead of you, or the people that are coaches, are mentors, and you could have one for fitness. You could have one for just, honestly, I think it's super important as women when we're growing and evolving. One of the things that I realized that I'm super excited I get to bridge the gap, this was totally not the point, but I am going to tell you, is that for me, I've invested in many coaches, which I'm super thankful, and I learned so much from each and every one of them. I always wanted a coach that covered who I am as a woman in the process of becoming better in my impact, better physically, better. Do you know what I mean? Bringing that all together. So that was a little bit of a tangent thought, but coaching is kind of beyond you, right? They've proven, that's where the thought started. I'm sorry. Somebody that has proven to do the things that you want to do, right? And then there's the people that are walking beside you. And the people that are walking beside you have the same momentum. They have pretty much, you might be at different paces at different seasons slightly, but they have pretty much the same pace with you. They have the same goals in terms of wanting to be the next best version of themselves and creating a difference and always learning and growing and evolving, right? And then you have the people that are traveling behind you. And the people that are traveling behind you are the people that you are meant to help. And again, each person created on purpose for a greater purpose. So it doesn't have to be something like you're going to write books or speak from a stage or have a coaching program. The people behind you could be your kids, right? It could be you're a teacher and it's, oh my gosh, you have one of the greatest responsibilities on earth because you're creating the humans that are going to be our next generation, right? So it could be that. And it is good to invest time in people that are not yet where you are at as well. Make sense? So there's above, there's beside, and there's behind. But you have to choose each one very carefully. Above, do they have a proven track record of being successful in the area that you want to grow in? Beside, are they on the same page in terms of growth and wanting to do better? Will they tell you the truth when it's uncomfortable? Will they be real with you? Will they challenge you? Will they kind of help you push out of your comfort zone? Between the people that are further along and the people, woo, fly. That's what happens on live. For the people that are beyond you and the people that are walking aside you, like part of that, they kind of blur together, but they show you what is possible, right? You, especially the people that are walking beside you, you feed off of each other's strengths. Just checking time, make sure I'm not going too long. And then the people behind you, this is also super important. Hey, Corey. I gave the example of parenting or being a teacher. And so in that example, this doesn't necessarily apply, but let's say it's somebody that you want to mentor or take under your wing and they're behind you, you should reach back and pull them along, right? I think that's part of what everybody's purpose is. In some examples or some environments, like especially when it comes to coaching, you're not meant to help everybody, right? They have to be wanting to do the work and you shouldn't be dragging somebody along. They should be eagerly seeking like, okay, what's next? What do I do next? How do I, all the things, right? And that's why the teaching was kind of a bad example because I know I was a horrible student and didn't really, put a lot into it at the time. I wasn't ready to receive knowledge and all of the things. So, but when you're in a coaching environment or you're in a leadership environment at work, whatever the case may be, you really want to focus on the people that are eager and interested and leaning in. You don't want to feel like you're dragging them. It's impossible. They have to want it for themselves, right? You'll spend way too much energy that is better trying to drag someone along or pull someone along. Like there is believing in someone, there is motivating someone, there is inspiring someone. And then there is the difference between that, someone that, like, for example, we talk about all the time, a lot of times people do need belief before they believe in themselves. There's a difference between that and really dragging somebody along that's not willing to do the work that was required to get to where you are, right? You want to focus on the people that are willing to do the work. Let me look at my notes, make sure I talked about, walk with you, all the things. So how to find them, because you might think like, Rebecca, I don't even know. I want to grow in my faith walk. I want to grow as a parent. I want to grow as this, but I don't know how to find those people. A couple of things. One, we live in a very virtual environment. So look for that coach or that mentor, whether it be in person or virtual. Right now, a lot of it is virtual, right? Look on YouTube, do the work to find out who is really good at this aspect and which I want to grow in. And I'm going to tell you straight up, time and time again, a lot of times it just cannot be a friend. It cannot be a buddy unless that person is already at a very established level. It's hard to blend being a coach and holding you accountable if they aren't yet ahead of you. So it has to, and if you're struggling with something, you may not have that person that is beyond you in that area in your life, right? It's a symptom of who we surround ourselves with. So looking for that coach, realizing that you are worth investing in yourself. That's a whole nother tangent that I won't go into, except to say that you are worth investing in yourself. A lot of times we feel like we're being selfish or we're not worthy of investing in ourselves to invest in coaching for X, Y, and Z, but we have no problem spending money on Starbucks a few times a week or eating out or doing our hair or our nails or whatever the case may be, when reality is, if you don't have a good foundation, you, like, all the other things just aren't going to be, you're not going to enjoy them as much. You're not going to experience them as to the extent in which you could, and you're not going to be able to give to the extent in which you could. And when it comes to friends, like, honestly, maybe you live kind of a quiet life. Maybe you feel like, like you're going through a season of craving connection and you're not sure how to do that. A lot of times you will find friends within the groups. Like, a lot of times when you get into a coaching program, that coaching program has other people that are just like you, right? Or very much minded and wired like you in that aspect of life. And then you connect and you build friendships from there, and get intentional about building friendships. Get intentional about getting out of your comfort zone in order to make friendships. We do live in a virtual world. Reach out and say, if they're local, can we get together for some coffee? If they're not, can we jump on a call? I know it sounds weird, but I'm telling, like, I did that and that used to not be me, but just a couple months ago, I reached out to someone and we're like-minded and we're both local. And I'm like, I know this is really weird, but can we get together for coffee, with no intention other than I finally just said, like, I really just want more, like, friends, right? I just want more connection. That's kind of weird for me to say, like, on live and Facebook, but I did do that recently within the last couple months. And then we get together, and sure enough, like, whatever it was that I felt led to reach out to her and connect with her, it was true. We just, have a lot of the same kind of goals, ideas, just whatever. And so we ended up having this great lunch, and now we're, building that friendship that I'm super excited about, right? So being willing to step out of your comfort zone to make those connections. And if you aren't comfortable with being uncomfortable, then take a course in confidence. Get involved in challenging yourself to step out of your comfort zone. Start with something small, and that's a whole nother thing in of itself too. It's actually going to be included in our next one of the courses that I'm creating. But my point is that when you do these things, so let me recap and tell you what I told you. The first one is that as you begin to do the work to get healthier, to get stronger, to become the next best version of you in any aspect of life, you need to continually audit who you are surrounding yourself with. Because chances are, if you are in a place where you've not been healthy in some aspect of life, whether it's mentally, emotionally, you don't feel like you're enough, you feel beaten down, you feel like you lack confidence, if it's just mental, then it could be that the people around you, and or maybe they're no longer around you, but it could be that they spoke things in over your life that at some point you accepted them to be truth, and so that's what built that position. Does that make sense? So you may not have people that are going to empower you and lift you up in your immediate circle, because you made choices of who you were going to surround yourself with based on what you knew. Right? And so when you start to want to get better and you start to recognize and start to kind of bring yourself up, you may realize that's when you need to take audit and say, who is in my life now? And are they supporting where I am and where I'm going, right? The second was, so once you do the work, and so when you do the work and you audit, you're looking for, are there people in my life that I really just need to disconnect from, right? Are there people in my life that I love and adore, but they're still just not in a healthy place for where I want to be at this season of my life? So maybe I need to put some boundaries around them, right? Be very clear in the type of conversations, or just not even have a overt conversation, but you become aware of what conversations you're going to get into with them, and or when not to respond, or whatever the case may be. Again, that's a whole nother, I'm trying not to go down that rabbit hole. And the third would be, maybe you have people in your life that are like good people, but they're just complacent. And maybe you need to not necessarily not necessarily delete them, not necessarily set boundaries, but again, as you continue to grow, bigger gap, and you want to be able to make sure that you're choosing to put people in, so maybe they don't go away, but you're choosing to put people in that are going to be on that same path as you, right? So what to look for, we talked about looking for people that are beyond you and where you want to go, looking for people to lock arms and walk beside you to where you want to go, and there might be a combination, there might be a little blend in those two categories, and looking for the people that are behind you, looking for the people that are behind you that want to do the work, that you are meant to lock arms with and pull them up, right? But again, I don't know if pull is a good word, because you want to be leading them. You want to make sure that you're investing your time, effort, and energy into people that are leaning in and wanting to do more for themselves, wanting to do better, and just aren't yet where you are, right? And that's true for any aspect of life. And then how to find them. How to find them is by getting intentional about looking for the coaches, looking for the mentors. You could do that online. You can do that through books. You can do that through YouTube videos. You can do that through, obviously, coaching programs. You can do that from being very intentional about seeking it out, and then also seeking out, that's for the people that are beyond you, but then also seeking out friendships for people that are wanting to lock arms and doing the work with you, right? And that's where sometimes those people come from, that group or that connection of the group or coaching program or whatever the case may be. And we kind of already talked about what to look for in terms of people to bring along, the people that are really wanting to lean forward. So I hope that was super helpful. Again, comment below if you're watching this live or on replay, and let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, all the things. Talk soon, guys. Bye.